So here we are, everyone. The final game for Wales of the Six Nations, and it's the biggest one of all. Wales against England in the Principality Stadium. What more could you ask for as a rugby fan? Maybe a win, that would be great. Let's get into the team. My name's Christian, and this is the Welsh Sports Podcast. So the team is out, and there has been two changes to the team that faced Scotland. One enforced, one not. Let's get into it and have a look what we think. So, in the front row, he's gone with Nicky Smith, Elliot Dee, Will Griff-John keeps his spot. And then the second row is Dav Jenkins, Will Rowlands. In the back row, Aaron Wainwright comes in at 6, Jack Morgan at 7, and Talupe Faletau at 8. And then in the back line, Thomas Williams with Gareth Anscombe as the halfbacks. And then on one wing is Joe Roberts. On the other wing is Ellis Mee. The centres stay the same, and Blair Murray retains his spot at fullback. On the bench then, you got Dewi Lake, Gareth Thomas, Kieran Azarati, Teddy Williams, Tommy Raffel, Rodri Williams, Jared Evans, and Nick Tompkins comes in. So I guess the real place to start is Joe Roberts on the wing. This was a little bit of a surprise to me. He obviously has come off the bench and had to play in that position, but not really his natural position. Mainly played 13 throughout his career. So this was a little bit of a surprise. We expected to see Josh Hathaway come in, or even Max Llewellyn go on the wing, and then potentially Joe Roberts in the centre. So this was a little bit of a surprise from Sherratt, not to do either of those, and to just back that Joe Roberts is going to have a good game on the wing. He's obviously been pretty good in the two games that he's come off the bench, and he's had to fill in on the wing. But, doesn't have that express pace that a general winger would, and maybe, could be potentially targeted with a kicking game or something like that, covering the backfield. Not going to be the most natural thing for him. Has played a few games for the Scarlets on the wing, more again coming off the bench rather than starting. So this is going to be a big ask for him. Jockey said that he's been really impressed with him around camp and his performances, and feels that he deserves to get this shot. So, yeah, congratulations to Joe Roberts. I was surprised at that. A little bit of an indictment on maybe where Josh Hathaway is, yet to really nail down or get any real opportunities within starting or coming off the bench. And he's been in a few squads now, so not really sure. But that is the big one. And then the other one is not really a surprise to most people. Some people thought it should have gone last week, and that is Aaron Wainwright at 6. And that makes sense to me. He adds an extra bit of size more than anything. You get another line-out option, and it's just more of an out-and-out 6 rather than playing the 2 7s. Feel like it definitely didn't work last week, and we were beaten at the breakdown. Interestingly, England have gone for 3 7s in the back row and actually got a 7 on their bench. So that's interesting. They obviously saw us getting battered at the breakdown against Scotland, and maybe they feel that's somewhere they can target us. But I think Wainwright coming in adds us an extra bit of carrying, and just general potentially frees up Jack to do more of the exciting stuff on the outside with ball in hand, rather than just doing everything like he's constantly doing. And I felt like him and Tommy Raffel were trying to do sometimes the same job in defence. So having that 6 just to, go through work and soak up pressure and stuff, and maybe get Jack on the ball a bit more. The other, maybe you could say contentious. I wouldn't necessarily say contentious, but you could say there was a lot of debate around these positions, was Will Griff-John at 3 maybe. People were talking Azarati coming in, who did okay off the bench last week, or Henry Thomas coming back in after. Will Griff had that amazing game against Ireland, and everyone was heralding him as, Wales have found their tight head, and then he followed it up with a horrendous display, you have to say. But maybe I would have stuck with him, to be honest. I just think, give him another chance. He probably knows that this is going to be his last chance if he doesn't perform. If he has another performance like he did against Scotland, then he's probably going to have to accept that his Wales career is probably not going to really take off. So this is a big game for him. Potentially it could be more scrums, and they feel like he's the best scrummager. So I think he's going to have a better game than he did in the Scotland game. Obviously, he's not going to make the stupid mistake of the yellow card that he got, which was pathetic. Outside of that, he had a knock on as well and just didn't really get an opportunity to get down in scrummage, which is his strength. So, hopefully he'll get that again and he can put it about like he did in the Ireland game. The other one then, which has had a lot of talk, was Teddy potentially coming in for Will Rowlands. They've stuck with Rowlands. I can understand why he would stick with him. He's obviously got that bulk, and keeping the type 5 the same makes sense scrum-wise. The line-out has been good, you have to say, so I can sort of understand why they kept Rowlands. But to me, he's in the last chance saloon. I would have gone with Teddy, but I can understand why he's gone with Rowlands. And then you get the impact off the bench from Teddy like we've seen in the last 2 games. So, yeah, that's about it. Then the centres are the same, and unfortunately, we talked about the back 3 injuries. Anscombe, again, was another one there was debate over whether he should start. It seemed pretty split 50-50 that Jared was probably the better option, and then a lot of people were saying it was probably just his impact because he came off the bench and it was a lot easier for him rather than just trying to control the whole game. I suspect that we might see Anscombe for maybe 45-50 minutes, and then they'll get Jared Evans on and just hope that Anscombe can manage us through the game. To me, he looked well off the pace in the Scotland game physically and mentally. He looked a touch slow, although he did put that excellent kick through for Blair Murray, but he just looked physically like he wasn't that interested. So hopefully that was due to the HIA he had, and he's had another week of training now, and maybe just that extra leadership that Jockey is looking for. Yeah, and that's kind of it. With the England team, they've gone quite funky. They've made a lot of changes, and I think there's a few positions we can get at them. They've gone with Fraser Dingwald and I think Tommy Freeman in the centre, so I think that's somewhere where we can potentially target him. Maybe that's why they didn't put Max Llewellyn on the bench, didn't change that centre partnership, which I actually like the thought between keeping those guys continuing to play together. Obviously they had the 3 autumn games and now they would have played the last 3 together. So I think continuing to build that partnership, which has showed moments of promise. I thought in a poor display, Max Llewellyn was one of the better backs that we had last week, even through in that first half when we weren't really doing anything. So the hope is, of course, that we don't have a repeat of what happened in that first half against Scotland. I was obviously very down after that Scotland game, but I kind of felt like we'd gone backwards, and just the performance at the end, just to bring it back, was more of like a shine on the result than actually the performance justified. But it was a lot of character for the boys to come back. So, hopefully they take the learning from the first half and then they play a bit more like they did in that second half. Because if we do play anything near like we did that first half against Scotland, England are just going to bully us and they're just going to absolutely dominate, and potentially they'll be out of sight, similar to what happened against Scotland. So we can't afford to keep letting teams get a lead. This is actually a little bit of an issue that Sherratt teams have had at Cardiff, where we've allowed teams to go out quite far in front, but they always seem to pull them back. So obviously it's bad that we're letting teams get a lead and get ahead, but we're showing that we can claw back and there's character. And I guess that's the main thing. If you'd have saw the first half from Scotland with Gatland in charge, you think that score would have been run up quite a lot more. But the boys dug in. There was that brave goal line stand, where they refused to back down. So let's see a full 80 minutes performance from the boys. To be honest, I can't wait for this game. Wales against England, no matter what the situation is always the best game for a Welsh fan. And having them at home, yes, they've won their last few games, and yes, they look a lot better than they have. But I still think that we've got a chance to beat them. I still think they're gettable. And I'm backing Wales to beat England and end in this drought. I think if we lose again, that'll be the most losses in a row by a Tier 1 nation ever. So that is a record we definitely don't want. We've broken plenty of bad records so far, so let's end it at that one. And what a game to end it against. Wales against England. I'm back in Wales. Come on, the boys.